Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Let's get a spooky stories at work thread going. I'll start. Be wage e-call center worker, doing night shift for the first time. The office is basically empty, just me and my supervisor. Around 2 a.m. I need to use the bathroom. The supervisor says we can close the line for a bit. He goes outside to smoke. I go to the restroom. The office is quiet, just the hum of machines and the ceiling lights buzzing. Finish up, washing hands. Hear something outside the bathroom door, like people talking, lots of them. Laughter, chairs being moved, keyboards clicking. Sounds like a busy workday. Creep to the bathroom door, open it slowly, look out into the hallway. It's empty, and no noise whatsoever. Close the door and wait. After around 30 seconds, the noises come back and are louder, like the whole office bustling with life. Even hear the sound of the coffee machine being used. Open the door again, step into the hallway. The noises stop immediately, like someone flipped a switch. Look around. Nothing. Head back to my desk. The supervisor came back and I explained what happened. Oh yeah, anon. That happens once in a while. What the hell? It never happened again to me. But apparently everyone that's done the night shift has reported this happening, and everyone just accepts it.
Hey X, I have something for you. It is nothing paranormal, but I think you might be interested in reading this. I am not giving any specific details on location, names, etc., since I signed an NDA. But if you are smart enough, maybe you can figure out something. I apologize in advance for all the context and details, but I honestly want your take on this. Be me, a health and safety engineer working for a worldwide company whose name will not be disclosed. Company has various lines of business within the real estate, facilities, leasing, projects, and many other sectors. I work in the facilities area. We basically make sure to maintain and run the client's facilities and offices without interruption while being accountable for their equipment, air conditioner, substations, electrical equipment, and so on. My job is to make sure our employees working at a client's facility do not get injured or hurt while working by implementing standards, procedures, training, and things alike. In December last year, my company closed a deal with one of, if not the largest data company worldwide for the maintenance of its office and facilities, as well as its data centers. I visited several of its premises in my local state in order to perform a risk assessment and determine which safety controls will be necessary, employee insurance policy level, PPE, etc. We will be absorbing a considerable workforce of technicians previously hired by another facilities company. So basically, they will be our employees working for the client. I am almost done with the job when I detect something off in our database. Around 6 employees that we will be hiring the next months have different data. The database does not state in which location they will be working. They have a high salary, way up for our standards. Additionally, they were not hired by the previous company. All this makes my alarms go on, since a high salary could mean they are exposed to more hazardous conditions. I also need to make sure to assess the area where they will be working. In the past, we have been sued and tried to be fooled for similar situations, where clients do not show the whole scope of work, so we think employees will be working on certain conditions when in reality they are exposed to higher risk. And when an accident happens, we get in trouble and discussion with the insurance company, sometimes lawsuits. I escalated this with my boss, and we made a huge deal about it. We get in trouble with other departments, HR, finance, which try to persuade us to overlook this. But we are firm in our decision since we do not want to be blamed afterwards should an accident happen. After some weeks of internal arguing and consulting it to the client, they agree to a risk assessment. Finance overlooked the high salary. I received an invitation to a call where a client employee inquired about my interest in knowing this location and what the process for the risk assessment consists of. He explained to me that I would need to sign an NDA and that I cannot take notes nor disclose with anyone the facility's location, activities, assets, pretty much anything. I will not be able to perform the risk assessment under such conditions. But at this point, I agree to a visual inspection to make sure those technicians are not working under high-risk activities. If so, we need to increase their insurance policy. I met the same man at the client facility. I have been there before. He takes me to an office where I sign the NDA. This is not new for me, as I have signed a couple before. I signed the NDA. The man told me to follow him. He drove me out of the facility and drove for around an hour. I was weirded out by this. We arrived at a suburban area. Okay, this is new for me. We stop in front of one house. The neighborhood looks as normal as any other I have seen. The man says, "Follow me," and we get in. The house looked off like a house made out of a dentist waiting area. Furniture and finishes are not of normal house, but more like an office. We walk to a room, and before we get in, the men say, "Do you need to use the restroom? You won't be able to get inside." I replied, "I'm good." We enter the room, and this is when things get weird. As F. There are 3 security guards. 2 of them are standing there with assault rifles. The other one is sitting at a desk with a computer. By far the most screwed up thing besides the whole scenario was that the 3 of them were using masks covering their entire face. Those were not normal face masks. Never during this pandemic have I seen similar masks. They were similar to K95 masks, but they extended to the entire face. It seemed as if the purpose was to cover the entire face and protect the identity instead of protecting the eyes, which were exposed by tiny openings. Picture pic related, but from the eyes, Dawn was exactly like a K95 mask. Before I could say anything, the man hands me over an enveloped mask and tells me to put it on and points to a small room next to me that I had not noticed. I do as I am told, remove my normal face mask and put that on. I go out and the man tells me to put all my belongings in a tray similar to those in airports. I place my keys, wallet, notebook, pen, cell phone in the tray, and one of the guards inspects me. The men got out of the room and told me to please place everything on the tray. It is the procedure, don't worry. The man does the same, and one of the security guards nods. He opens yet another door leading to stairs going down. We go down the stairs for what seems from 30 to 50 feet deep. By this point, I am really puzzled and freaked out by the whole thing, but I played it as if I am used to it. We get down and go through a hallway leading to a huge area with thousands of servers, basically a huge underground data center. I have been to similar data centers, but as far as I know, there is no need to build it underground. The area is huge for an underground facility in a residential area. I don't even know if it is legal, at least 500 square feet, but do not quote me on that. There are at least 15 people working there, all of them with the same masks. Most of them are checking servers and working on PCs. I'm informed that the 6 technicians work there in different shifts, 2 technicians per shift. They just need to make sure to maintain the whole place and keep the temperature and HVAC equipment adequate for the servers to work. I was introduced to the 2 technicians working at that time. I introduce myself and try to welcome them into the company. They barely talk to me. We proceed with the risk assessment. I ask them usual stuff like tools they use, accidents they have experienced, equipment, etc. But before giving any reply, they look for this man's approval. We do a walk around the area, gathering as little information as they can provide me. Some of the questions I asked were answered as, "That is not within the scope of work," or "They won't be taking care of that." I see some other doors leading to who knows where. I asked about it, but the man replied, "No, the technicians do not work outside the DC area. They do not go there." At this point, I thought I should not push things any further. The whole thing lasted about an hour. I forgot about the risk assessment and pretended to be gathering information when in reality, I was just thinking what the hell was going on. At some point, I said I had enough information. We left the DC area and I just pretended to be fine with everything. We got upstairs, picked up my stuff, and were told to place the mask on a bin. The man drove me to the facility where I first met him. During the way, we barely spoke, except when he asked, "So the guys, will they be getting hurt?" I said no and talked about working and assessing far riskier areas for other clients. I keep pretending what I saw was within the range of normal to me. I have performed this kind of inspections for military and military subcontractor companies for quite some time, even laboratories. But never had I seen something like it anyway. I pretended that was the case while talking with the men. I was dropped in the parking lot in the first facility and told that everything was okay and huge, thanks for allowing me to do my job. For which the man replied, "Okay then, so I expect no further inspections or risk assessments are required, right?" I said no, and we said goodbye. I went home and continued my day as usual, wondering WTF. Next day, I told my boss I could not provide any details because of the NDA. He just asked, "But is there any risk?" I said no. Everything should be fine. But at this point, I don't even know. PIC-related is similar to what the DC looked like. Any thoughts? Do any of you know if this is usual? I haven't been able to find masks like those I described or even pictures.
Let's compile the strangeness. Very secretive and hidden location? Check. Identities of the guys in control, the ones with guns. Hidden? Check. A lot of tech in a closed-off area underground for unknown purpose? Check. People working there acting like they are scared to speak up without acknowledgement from a superior? Check. My thoughts? This place has information about projects and people that must be kept safe from the public and must survive a severe disaster. Could be a sort of bank. Or then the doors in the facility lead to the actual working areas and this was a facade. A clever ruse to make you think it's a conspiracy of some kind when it's actually the surface of the pond.
Suppose it works 'cause I work at home technically. Just last night, falling asleep after a long day of being a semi-productive, decadent piece of shit artist. Hypnagogia go brar. Loud noise drags me out of sweet cotton sleep. Open my eyes, genuinely spooked. I live alone in a small apartment, and am well over spooking myself with bullshits. Look at the noise's direction. Can't see shit, of course. Dimly see a hunched figure leaning forward towards my bed. Don't know what to do, sleepy and in the in-between zone. Shoo it away like it's a cat. Lights up, room perfectly normal. Realize it's not the first time this happens, just never remember it because sleep. Kinda puzzled. Go back to sleep. I've had candles light up for no reason at the other end of the room, and stuff like that on a semi-regular basis.
Volunteer at the local aquarium. Fun summer job for a high schooler. Get to play with fish and talk about whales all day. Sometimes the place does night events, like weddings, company parties, Halloween, etc. Asked to stay late for a night event. Event was pretty fun, hanging with my bros and this chick I liked at the time named Jamie. It's now pretty late and people are leaving. Offer a hand to clean up. Turns out some of the tables need to go upstairs, on the second story where the theater is. The theater is cool during the day, but spooky in the dark. Imagine a big concrete amphitheater with a huge pool in the center, and that's about it. Sea lions swimming in the pool, making animal noises. No bother, though a bit creepy because I'm all alone in the massive space. Get into the storage room and drop off a table or two. The back of our storage room is connected to the quarantine area for sick or new, small animals. Poke back there because I've been before but never really explored. Tanks with really cool critters, all marked. In the center is a small pool, unmarked. The pool is covered with a net, but I can see vague shapes moving inside. Lights are on, so I can tell they're fish of some kind, probably for a new exhibit. Head out of storage and lock up. Downstairs on the main floor, there's an eerie quiet, almost serene calm. Soak it in and leave for the night with my buddies. We take the back path around the outdoor exhibits. You can hear the whales swimming and a lot of the animals are rustling around. Kind of cool head-out back entrance by our massive food locker, basically a giant storage container freezer that houses all the fish to feed the animals. Somebody points out a light is on in the locker. He steps in to shut it off and finds the door unlocked, maybe just a careless co-worker. He shouts to us to get inside, sounds panicked. Some of the bags of frozen fish were knocked over and spilled all over, not that weird. When we got to the mess though, we saw that the bag looked like it was literally torn open. Frozen fish and squid guts everywhere. WTF.MP3. We joke with each other about whether we should clean it up or just leave it. Jamie says we should be responsible and goes to grab a mop from the kitchen. Now the kitchen in an aquarium isn't like a typical restaurant kitchen. Imagine a huge tile room with one giant drain in the floor and big steel countertops that all flow into one huge sink. Cabinets are stocked with knives, vitamins, and clipboards with dietary plans. There's a fridge, of course, for meds and produce. And there's 1 or 2 massive spray hoses for cleaning up guts or anything else. There's also a large glass sliding door that leads out into a large animal quarantine bay, probably so staff could watch animals or even have them come into the kitchen if needed. Anyway, we get into the kitchen and it's a mess. The hoses are hanging loose, there's puddles to step through, knives out of their holders, and somebody left fish guts on the counter and floor. Jamie gives us tasks to clean this place and then GTFO. Mind you, it's also freezing in here, which I should have mentioned earlier. Still attached to the freezer, and it's late February at this point, so there's snow outside and it's damn cold. As I'm cleaning, I can see my breath. Somebody tries to lighten the mood and points out the sliding door is fogged up from all of us warming up the room. I go over to wipe it off so we can see outside. It's not our side of the glass. Unlock the door and open it to peek outside and see more guts outside the door. We're officially getting worried now. Somebody finally says, "Screw this, it's not our job to clean up," suggests we head out. We pack up and start heading back the way we came when Jamie says she wants to check on the dolphin we have in quarantine. Somebody pipes up that they're not going outside that way and leaves. The rest of us go check out the dolphin. It's still there, half asleep but swimming around. Step over the trail of fish guts that's literally covering the pathways around this tank, shaking our heads and walk to our cars. Some of us are leaving a trail of blood in the fresh snow, and after a few curses, we stomp our shoes out and get in. As my friend and I pull out in my car, my headlights hit the freezer area. There in the headlights is a human-shaped figure just standing near the door of the freezer. Beep the horn and the shadow doesn't move. Beep again and it starts shuddering. Best way to describe it. One more beep and the mystery figure lumbers off toward the tree line behind the parking lot. My friend rolls down the window and starts shouting, but we don't get a response. Oh well, and we drive home, joking about the night to ease the unsettling fish guts bit, and both of us agree to report the weirdo. The next day, I come into work and see one of my co-workers in hysterics. Ask what's happening and find out that the dolphin in the quarantine didn't make it and was found belly up with a huge gash in its side. Vets think it might have struck something or swam up against a rough edge in its pool, which is kind of weird, but all right. Mentioned the weird person and the mess in the kitchen to my boss, and they said somebody took care of it. I was then scolded for not using the main exit last night and told me to not go into the freezer again without being asked. They also would let security know to increase their vigilance around the area. Okay, whatever, but what was with the mess? They're clueless and send me on my way. Later that day, I go into the small animal quarantine again for a job and see the netted pool has literally exploded into a bloody foam. WTF.png. Somebody jammed a tool into the filter, causing the water to become hyperoxygenated and killing the fish by blowing them to bits with gas. The boss freaks out and has people on it right away to clean up the mess. Strike up a conversation with Jamie about the 2 incidents on the same day, and she agrees we should look out for each other. During the aquarium-wide department meeting, we hear some words about the dolphin, the fish tank, and a new story that one of the parrots was also killed. This is getting too creepy for me. Somebody raises their hand and asks if these are related. The head of animal care quickly denounces this and says that logically it's just 3 weird coincidences. Everybody needs to up their game, animals are precious, etc., etc. Jamie and I know there's something weird and decide to figure it out on our own by sneaking around the aquarium whenever we can. Business continues as usual. The next day, one of the sea lions is found dead in its exhibit, apparently poisoned. The amphitheater is heavily monitored with security and cameras, and the only way non-trainers can access the animals is by literally entering the water or opening a small gate on the side of the show floor, used for guests to meet the sea lions. There are also a few penguins found wandering outside of their exhibit. At least a few have had their ID tags removed, and one with a broken leg and wing that definitely seemed like fight injuries. Mind you, the penguin exhibit has an opening about 10 feet off the ground and is surrounded by concrete ramps and trees, making it very hard to get to or from. one of the aquarium's bigger design flaws. The aquarium still denies any strangeness and that these are all coincidences, pleads with us to get our shit together and take better care of the animals. Later that week, I was sent to the storage freezer to snag food for some of the animals. Take the back path again because I'm still snooping. While in the freezer, the door slams shut on me. I panic because even if I can get out, I didn't turn on the lights. Stupid, because I thought it was a quick job, stumbling through the freezer to find the exit. Pre-smartphones with lights before you guys say anything. Step in something, look down and can just tell I'm standing in fish guts, clear as crystal by the smell, and just knowing that was the only option. Realize what might be happening. Tiptoe toward where I think the exit is. Find a door and fling it open. It's the kitchen. Nobody here because it's not feeding time. Shut the door behind me and walk out like nothing happened. Walking back with my frozen fish when I decide to cut back to the main building through the back path, through the woods behind the aquarium and behind all the outdoor exhibits. Leaving a trail of fish guts with me and kick off my shoes on a tree, fed up with this business. See a red patch in the snow, just off the trail. Poke it with a branch and discover it's a mound of frozen fish and guts, covered up with a blue tarp under some leaves and snow. Notice tracks from the pile to the nearby highway and another set going toward the aquarium. Their boot prints, huge and heavy duty. Walk off that trail as fast as I can and report it to the aquarium higher-ups. They state they'll investigate. Never heard anything further about it, but there were a few more strange deaths before the end of the season. One of the ducks from the duck pond was found with a sharpened stick jammed through its chest, still alive but barely. A shark died, and during the necropsy we found metal nuts, bullets, and birdshot in its stomach and intestines, ripping a hole in the lining which killed it. It was raised in captivity its whole life. Weird deaths finally stopped toward the end of the season, and I finished my volunteering without issue. A lot of the season's interns left along with me, including Jamie. Some of them went back to school, some got new jobs at other aquariums or zoos. A few months after all this happened, I heard from a friend still at the aquarium that a nearby nature center was reporting strange deaths and similar experiences. My face when there is a person out there who is getting their kicks going into or working at animal parks and murdering the animals.
I work in northern Alberta for an oil field company. I maintain wells in an area known as Chinchaga. If you look it up, you will learn it's 120 to 160 kilometers in the woods. There is one main road that vehicles can travel in summer and winter. However, in winter, once the muskeg freezes, they make winter access roads. Because of this, 90% of the work is done in winter. Getting to the sites on quads is even very hard in summer. I get promoted to a run where I'm helicopter escorted because it's impossible to get to these sites any other way. One time in summer, I'm on my helicopter run, easily 200 kilometers in the bush now. I go to check on a separate building, a place where all the liquids and gas from a well gather to be measured before going down the pipeline. As I'm going in, this guy, who must be 30 or 40, walks out beside me. He's got a backpack, wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt and ragged jeans. As he's walking away, I call out to him, "Hey, sir, you need help? We can take you to nearest town." He doesn't respond, just keeps walking. My pilot is looking at me confused. I return his confused look with a shrug gesture. Iron Maiden guy just walks into the trees surrounding the area. Never heard of him again. I had some other weird shit, but that one bugs me the most. It still sticks with me. Picture related. This is why work doesn't happen when the ground is thawed.
I was working as archivist for the Catholic Diocese. Offices are in a large building that used to be an orphanage. No offices on the 3rd floor. Ask why. The maintenance guy says no one goes to that floor. Go up to check it out. The rest of the building has been modernized, but this still looks like an orphanage from the early 1900s. Spooky. Look around a bit. Find some cool shit, like an old table clock and a fountain pen, etc. Hear noise. Look up. At the far end of the main hallway, I see a door open. Then another, then another. The doors are opening closer and closer to me. Hear the sound of running feet approaching too. Peace out of there. The next day, I talked about what I saw with the maintenance guy on our smoke break. He laughs. Sounds like you met Sister Marie. Apparently, one of the nuns at the orphanage fell off a ladder and died there. Also, one time in my travels through the archives, I found an old sword bearing the arms of the Order of Malta, but it also had Masonic symbols on the underside of the hilt. I later made a second trip up to the 3rd floor. Nothing happened this time, but I didn't stay long as I got the eerie feeling I was being watched. I did manage to snag that bomb-ass pen, though. Pick-related.
I used to work at a wildlife bird sanctuary. Every morning I would have to go out to the trees and wooded area and fill up the bird feeders. It's pretty spooky in the early morning when it's still dark. Usual birds chirping and crickets. Hear a bird whistle that sounds very human-like. Look around thinking someone's screwing with me, no one in sight. As I'm filling up one of the feeders, I face up and see a face in amongst the trees looking at me. Jesus, man, you scared the crap out of me. No one there. Check the register. It's too early for the rangers to be in yet. Tell my coworker says it's the ghost of one of the old rangers keeping watch over his birds. Enjoys spooking people when they are alone out there. Probably being messed with, but never seen that face around the place or seen him since. But since then, I always made sure it was at least light out before heading out there.
Hello, X. Usually I lurk, but it's time to share all the weird stories from my hometown. As this is a work thread, I'll go with my grandma's old workplace. She was a guide at Hall's Croft, England. One story involves one of those shows we love to hate, Be My Grandma. Finishing day in the gift shop, which is for some reason on the 1st floor. Everyone else has gone home apart from one friend in the cafe, which is in the modern part of the building. Creaking everywhere, but this is normal as the building is Tudor and everywhere is old wood. I think nothing of it. Sees a figure through the glass doors and tells them it'll take 5 minutes to shut down the till, etc. No response. Noise from the staff room, which used to be John Hall's office. John Hall was a doctor, in as much as a tutor can be a medical professional anyway. Past the medical equipment exhibit room, which is ridiculously cold. She said to me that walking into it gave her goosebumps, and walking out of it was like stepping out of an air-conditioned car into summer heat. Whatever old buildings are weird. All the cases are closed and windows shuttered. Suddenly knocking on the staff room door, which is strange because why would someone knock to come out of a room? Inside the staff room, the lights are on for some reason, and 3 pieces of medical equipment are just lying on the table. Equipment from the locked display cabinets in the exhibit. She believes John was working on something and couldn't work out who had locked his office door. She actually apologized to the air and just put the equipment back, bless her. She was never afraid of the ghosts there because she'd worked there for so long. More stories from Hall's Croft incoming. Pick-related, it's Hall's Croft. Story 2. Most Haunted comes to Stratford-upon-Avon and they want to film at Hall's Croft. Grandma is there because she knows all the ghost stories and is the head guide. Yvette Fielding is apparently very nice, if a bit dramatic. Psychic says he sees a woman on the stairs. Grandma pretends she is impressed because literally everyone knows a woman died from falling down the main staircase, and this is not difficult to find out. Camera crew and personalities head into the main bedroom, talking about orbs and stuff. Everything in the bedroom is behind a rope so it can't be touched by guests. The nearest thing to the people filming is a table. Items on the table are sewn onto the tablecloth so that people don't nick them. Someone, apparently a ghost, somehow picks up a metal spoon from this bedside table and throws it at Yvette Fielding. As far as I recall, it actually hits her or narrowly misses her face. Grandma spends a long time consoling her because she's crazy upset. Now. Grandma is torn on this because there is one angry spirit in the upstairs rooms, but she doesn't believe he would throw anything from the exhibits. Maybe he was super pissed that they were filming in his home and pretending to be so spiritually awakened. Mostly she thinks one of the crew threw it, but it was sewn into the tablecloth and nothing else fell off or was moved. I personally think that someone went in before filming happened and maybe cut the threads, because I am a no fun allowed skeptic. I've been trying to find that episode for years. Maybe it's online somewhere now. Pick is the bedroom I always imagined it happening in, but I actually don't know for sure. These ones aren't about work, but they're at Hall's Croft still, so I'm just gonna wham them at the end. Scores of tourists would bring photos in which you can make out the lady on the stairs, people in windows, figures in the garden. My favorite was one my grandma photocopied of the angry ghost's face in a tiny bedside mirror. He kind of looked like Henry VIII, weirdly. Because my mom could never come and get me from school if I was sick, I used to go to Hall's Croft and sit in the staff room until my grandma's tour was over and she could take me to her house. Multiple times sleeping on a refurbished pew in the staff room that was John Hall's office. Always a cold hand on my forehead just before I fall asleep. Always woke up feeling perfectly fine. Only realized it wasn't Grandma when she apologized for not being able to come up and see me and asked if I was all right as we left. Thanks, John, I think. Finally, for today. There's a lot of weird stories about Hall's Croft, and I'll ask her for more next time I see her. Aunt's wedding reception is in the Hall's Croft garden. Me and cousins are all bridesmaids and page boys, etc., playing princesses and knights and stuff because of dresses. We meet a little girl who joins in for a while. Don't know who she is, but my family is huge, and I was already playing with 3 kids I'd never met before, so I don't really care. Girl fine until we try to go and play in a weird basement pantry thing. She is adamant we do not go into this basement. Cousin Francesca tries to go down anyway. Girl screams in her face and runs down before we can head in. Francesca cries to my granddad. He checks, but the little girl is for sure not down there. Grandma hears the story, nods wisely, and tells us about a girl that got crushed by a falling barrel in there. I think that was in the 70s or something rather than the original period of the house. Oddly friendly ghosts in my hometown.
I'm a beekeeper. I spend a lot of times in fruit and nut tree orchards owned by very wealthy people. One orchard in specific, however, to this day gives me the creeps big time. It's at the foot of a very small mountain range. Some argue that it is the smallest mountain range in the world, and it is sort of tucked away into a small ravine. The local area of these mountains, located in the Central Valley of Northern California, is well known to be home to very strange cultist activity, ranging from children's sacrifices to just strange gatherings around a large cross used by local churches on Easter Sunday for the service. Anyways, to the point. One day, me and my business partner were out working our hives in this strange orchard. It was a scorching hot day, easily 100+ degrees. We arrived and noticed that there was a burnt almond tree towards the back of the orchard. We moved closer to inspect and found that someone had stolen a sheep from one of the pastures nearby and lit it on fire. And the nails. Holy shit, the nails. There were thousands of nails everywhere, hundreds of which had been driven into the burnt corpse of the sheep or small dog or whatever it was. We wrapped up our job at that location pretty early because we just felt weird being there. My partner called the farmer to report what we had seen, only to pretty much never hear about it again. He never returned our calls about the subject and only dealt with us during pollination season. Still visit that place sometimes. The part of the tree that got slightly singed never recovered. There's still a tree that's half alive and half decrepit and dead. On top of that, both me and my partner have accidentally crashed our work trucks into trees in that exact orchard. Needless to say, I spend as little time there as I can, and to this day wonder about what happened there.
Be in the Navy. Out at sea on patrol looking for people, smugglers, drug runners, etc. On watch one night, it's 3 a.m., everyone is tired. We talk shit to pass the time. PO brings up ghost stories, tells us about the fridge flat and the NCO's showers. 10 years prior, the ship was out stopping illegal immigrants and one of their boat capsized bodies everywhere in the water. They had to pick the corpses up and store them in the fridge flat. Tells us about the PO who shot himself in the head after coming back from an operation. We all knew about this shit. It wasn't bullshit. Young female seaman starts getting all sobby. Ask what's wrong. She's quite hysterical by now. Tells us that she was down in the fridge flat one night and it was red lighted. Saw a person standing in the corner. She asked who it was, but they didn't answer, so she approached. When she did, she said the person turned. She described it as a disfigured, rotten human with bloated facial features. Eyes were glazed and white, skin all hemorrhaged. She said all the red lighting died and the hatch to the upper deck shut on her, even though it was latched in place and no one else was awake on that deck at that time. She didn't tell anyone because she thought she was going nuts. Rumors spread about it, and soon enough almost half the crew were telling similar stories. It became so well known that we started to joke about it over pipes and things.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.